whenever you're ready.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Buchanan.
My name is Stacy.
We did our management plan for Pinaceae Farms LLC. Management plans are designed specifically and written specifically for site-specific locations, properties, and to emphasize landowner goals. Specifically for our project, we are focusing both on timber and wildlife management.
Use the mouse.
Okay. A little bit of history about the property is that it was previously owned by the McCrary's and then sold to Rainier Forest Resources. It was purchased in 2010 from our landowner, Dr. Bill Smith, and it was previously all forested land and continues to be forested land. The property is right outside of Osceola, Georgia, in Irwin County, off of Highway 319. And you can see up here in the upper right-hand corner that the yellow border represents Irwin County, and this red border represents the property boundary. Our landowner does have two main goals. Goal one is to maintain and improve wildlife habitat. We do have three objectives. Objective one is to create a suitable habitat to promote wildlife populations. Objective two is to maintain food resources with both food plots and feeders to provide the wildlife species with the essential nutrients that they need during summer and winter seasons. Objective three is to create a burn rotation to complement wildlife. Objective two is to maintain the existing timber currently growing on the property. Objective one is to implement silvicultural practices such as thinning and prescribed fire to maintain and improve upon the current management. Objective two is to assess and the site index and soil types to match appropriate pine species with the correct location on the property to maximize growth of the species that's being planted. And objective three is to promote native species through prescribed fire. We do have 13 stands on the property. They were separated based on the tree age, tree species, and past silvicultural practices such as thinning and prescribed fire. The understory does consist of broom sedge, dog fennel, wiregrass, muscadine, greenbrier, water oak. The drainage class ranges from poorly drained to well drained based on where you are on the property. And you can see here that the two hardwood bottoms that run through the property are excluded from our map as they were not included in our cruise.
Stand 1 is a 124-acre loblolly pine stand. It is around the age of 27. It was last planted in 1997. The average diameter of the trees is 10.8 inches. Average height of the trees is 68.4 feet. Average base layer of the stand is 63 square feet an acre. And this stand roughly holds 99 trees per acre. It was last thinned in 2014. It was implemented with the 5th row thin. Prescribed fire is applied here every other year. Stand 2 is a 68-acre loblolly pine stand that is around the age of 17. It was planted in 2007. The average diameter of the trees is 8 inches. Average height of the trees is 53.4 feet. Average base layer of this stand is 144 square feet an acre. And this stand roughly holds 408 trees per acre. This stand has neither been burned or thinned. Stand 3 is a 36-acre loblolly pine stand that is around the age of 17. It was planted in 2007. The average diameter of these trees is 8.8 inches. The average height is 62.2 feet. Average base layer of this stand is 78 square feet an acre. And this stand roughly holds 183 trees per acre. This stand has neither been thinned nor burned. Stand 4 is a 54-acre loblolly pine stand that is around the age of 22. It was planted in 2002. The average diameter of these trees is 8.8 inches. The average height for these trees is 62.1 feet. The average base layer of this stand is 81 square feet an acre. and this stand roughly holds 192 trees per acre. This stand was last thinned in 2021, and prescribed fire is applied here every other year. Stand 5 is a 90-acre loblolly pine stand that is around the age of 25. It was planted in 1999. Average diameter of these trees is 11.1 inches. Average height of these trees is 69.1 feet. The average base layer of this stand is 83 square feet an acre, and this stand roughly holds 123 trees per acre. It was last thinned in 2019. It was implemented with a 5th row thin, and prescribed fire is applied here every other year.
Stand 6 is a 27-acre loblolly pine stand around the age of 3, which means it was planted in 2021. It was hand-planted at a spacing of 6 foot by 10 foot, which gives us a TPA of 726. And because of the age of the stand, it has not been thinned or burned. Stand 7 is a 26-acre loblolly pine stand around the age of 31, which means it was planted in 1993. The average diameter of the stand is 14.1 inches. The average height of the stand is 74.9 feet. The average basal area of the stand is 73 square feet with a TPA of 67. It was implemented with a 5th row thin back in 2010, and prescribed fire is applied here every other year. Stand 8 is a 29-acre slash stand around the age of 31, which means it's also planted in 1993. The average diameter of the stand is 13.3 inches. The average height of the stand is 75.6 feet. The average basal area of the stand is 77 square feet with a TPA of 80. It was last thinned in 2010, and prescribed fire is applied here every other year. Stand 9 is a 26-acre loblolly pine stand around the age of 17, which means it was planted in 2007. The average diameter of the stand is 8.1 inches. The average height of the stand is 48.3 feet. The average basal area of the stand is 126 square feet with a TPA of 353. And this stand has never been thinned or burned.
Stand 10 is another 36-acre loblolly pine stand that is around the age of 31. It was planted in 1993. The average diameter of these trees is 12.4 inches. The average height is 76.7 feet. The average base layer of this stand is 81 square feet an acre. And this stand roughly holds 104 trees per acre. It was last thinned in 2010, and prescribed fire is applied here every other year. Stand 11 is a 36-acre loblolly pine stand that is around the age of 17. It was planted in 2007. The average diameter of these trees is 8.8 inches. The average height of these trees is 59.3 feet. The average base layer of this stand is 149 square feet an acre, and this stand roughly holds 350 trees per acre. This stand has neither been thinned nor burned. Stand 12 is a 91-acre loblolly pine stand that is around the age of 17. It was planted in 2007. The average diameter of these trees is 8.3 inches. The average height of the trees is 47.4 feet. The average base layer of this stand is 108 square feet an acre. It was This stand roughly holds 390 trees per acre, and this stand has neither been thinned nor burned. Stand 13 is our last stand on the property. It is a 39-acre loblolly pine stand that is around the age of 31. It was planted in 1993. The average diameter of these trees is 12.6 inches. The average height of these trees is 75.8 feet. The average base layer of this stand is 86 square feet an acre, and this stand roughly holds 100 trees per acre. It was last thinned in 2014. Even though prescribed fire has been prevalent in the past, it has not seen it in the most recent years.
For our methods, we summarize it into a table. Like I said, we do have 13 stands, and for each stand, we assigned 15 preliminary plots. For our methods in plot size, they were determined based on the stand's tree size and understory conditions. For point sampling, we use both a 10 and a 20 BAF prism, or basal area factor prism. And as for fixed radius plots, we use both a 1/50th acre plot, which is 16.7 foot radius, and a 1/20th acre plot, which is 26.3 foot radius. We did decide to go with a 80% confidence interval with a 20% allowable error, and this is because our landowner does not not wish to harvest or clear cut any of his timber. Therefore, we did not feel like it was appropriate to do a higher intense acres.
The slide shown above, it shows the volume in tons per acre of each stand. And it even shows in each product class how many tons per acre there are and the totals of how much merchantable timber there are in each stand. In each product class, there is pulpwood, chip and saw, salt timber, and they have certain dimensions that each tree must fall in for them to be in this product class. In pulpwood, the dimensions is any tree that falls in between 5 to 8 inches in diameter. Chip and saw is any tree that falls in between 8 to 12 inches in diameter. And saw timber is any tree that is greater than 12 inches in diameter. And as you see, right here, there's no stand 6, and there's a reason for that. The reason for that is that the stand is very young, has no merchantability at the time, or at the moment, holds no value or any tons in any product class, so it will be excluded from the results.
For our timber management options, we did come up with 3 options. Option 1 is to continue the existing timber management currently on the property, which includes occasionally thinning, no harvesting or clear cutting, and prescribed fire is applied for about 300 acres a year. Option 2 is to regularly thin and harvest when the stands reach appropriate size and age. And option 3 is to maintain a low basal area from around 40 to 60 square feet an acre.
Wildlife management options on the property include 3 options. Option 1 being to continue the existing wildlife management, which includes continuing to plant only a small amount of forest species at one time of the year in the food plots, and to continue the regular burn rotation on the property only through stands. Option 2 is to create and sustain pine spandrel ecosystem. This is done through frequent fire throughout the property and to reduce the basal layer to a more park-like open stand. Option 3 is to implement a winter disking system on the property within the food plots, and then also planting various forest species within these food plots, and to give a more adequate prescribed fire rotation to this state, or to this property.
For our timber management recommendation, we did decide to go with option 3, which was to maintain a low basal area. Eventually, we would like to see the whole property maintained at a basal area of around 40 to 60 square foot. Some of the stands right now are currently exceeding the threshold of 120 square feet. So for the time being, they will be reduced to a basal area of 80 square feet. And then eventually we'd like to see those maintained at a 40 to 60 square feet. We would also like to see the understory be maintained with prescribed fire to stunt hardwood encroachment. And all of the stands are scheduled for a thin in 15-year increments.
And then stand 9 will be excluded from our timber management plan, but will be included in our wildlife management plan. The reason is that stand 9 has high mortality, and since replanting currently, which is through the harvesting or clear cutting of the stand, that cannot be done, as the landowner has made it very clear that he does not want to do that. He said he would rather sacrifice his timber for the betterment of wildlife on the property. This will be great for the wildlife, as it will create more of a wildlife corridor and cover for the wildlife. And this will work great, as it will be included in our timber management. Wildlife management recommendations on the property include many recommendations. Planting a summer and winter forage. A summer forage would include cowpeas, soybeans, grain sorghum. Winter forage would include rye, oats, corn, and white clover. We'll also be implementing a winter disking in all the food plots, but only 33% in every food plot would be winter disc to improve native forage and brood cover for northern bobwhite and wild turkey. While the remaining 67% of that food plot will be planted in a selected forage species at that time. We'll also, located in the center of the property, there's a waterfowl impoundment. It will be continued to be planted in corn yearly to lure in ducks during the hunting season. We'll also be burning in smaller blocks to allow wildlife cover. The reason is for this, it will create a more mosaic pattern across the property and be more biodiverse. And this will be great for the refugia on the property, for the wildlife to have somewhere to go when any silvicultural practices are done on this property, such as thinning, prescribed fire. We'll also like to reduce our base layer on this property to a criteria between 40 to 60 square foot an acre. The reason for this is that it works really good for most of the wild game species on the property, and it allows more sunlight to the forest floor. And this will coincide quite well with our timber management recommendations, so we see this as a great recommendation for our wildlife. The burn rotation on property will be on a 2-year interval. And as seen by the map right here, everything in orange will be 1 year, and everything yellow will be the next year. And every burn unit that you see right here is less than 50 acres. The reason for this, it creates more of a mosaic pattern across the property and be more biodiverse. The reason also, we'll be also implementing growing season burns on this property. Now, this will be at discretion of the landowner, and if any weather parameters fall into place.
For the timber activity schedule, this is a 20-year projection. Each stand, like we said earlier, is 15-year increments. In the next 2 years, we want to see stands 7, 8, 10, 13, 2, 11, and 12 thinned. Specifically for stands 7, 8, 10, and 13, we want to implement a pole thin, which means we want to keep trees that have less sweep, which means they are more straight. We want defect-free trees, tall in height and bigger in diameter. And for a pole thin, this is where we are going to reduce the basal area down to around 40 to 60 square feet. Also in 2026, stands 2, 11, and 12 are going to have a regular thin because these stands are exceeding the 120 square foot threshold. We are going to cut those stands down to 80 for the time being. In 2028, stands 1 and 5 will also be ready for a pole thin down to 40 to 60 square foot. And then in 2036, stands 3, 4, and 6 will also have a regular thinning to reduce to 80 square foot. You can see in 2041, stands 2, 11, and 12. This is 15 years from 2026, and so they will be hopefully at that time ready for a pole thin, which will be assessed at that time.
The wildlife activity schedule on the property will include new prescriptions, and we will start it at the new year. In January of 2025, all the food plots will be winter disc, while only 33% of each of the food plot will be in a winter disc, while the remaining 67% will be planted in a forage species. In April of 2025, we'll be planting food plots 1, 2, 5, 9, 10, 11 in a summer forage. And also in April of 2025, we'll be planting waterfowl impoundment and corn. And then in August of 2025, food plots 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 will be planted in the winter forage. The food plots will be on a rotating pattern. Every year they'll change. So food plots right here will then change to a winter forage. This will change to a summer forage. This will be on a rotating pattern until the landowner sees fit or until he wants to change.
We would like to acknowledge our landowner, Dr. Bill Smith, for granting us access to the property and allowing us to utilize the property for our project. We'd also like to thank Dr. Cadembo, Dr. Scott, Dr. Lane, and Grant Rentz for reading our paper and giving us feedback on how to improve. We'd also like to thank Colin Woolard, Jacob Owens, Michael Stewart, and Tanner Copeland for also taking the time to read our paper and give us feedback on how to improve.
Any questions?
Detailed on that property?
Dr. Bill Smith did grant us access to hunt on his property. One morning, me and Cassie went out there, and I was able to harvest this fine gobbler right here. And still on the lookout for her turkey. Still trying hard, but this does show on the property, there is wild turkeys out there, and that with our management plans, we can sustain that population or make it even greater.
Based on what?
Based on what?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
What could you do that says that?
Well, like I said, we'll be winter disking, which will create brood cover, and also the forage species that we're selecting will be able to give them adequate, feed during the winter and summer months.
Can you go back to your study area map?
The stand one or the location?
The one that has all the food plots.
It's at the very end.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh.
Right there is a number of food plots we got, and even the waterfowl impoundment located in the center of the property.
At the, well, what kind of assessment of the food plots did you do when you were in the field?
Well, in these main two big food plots, there is irrigation in there, and then they're currently planted in rye, oats, and corn at the moment. That's
The reason I'm bringing it
Yes,
up
sir.
is it just seemed like you just threw that in there without
Mhm.
any part of your field work teamed around that.
Yes.
And it just seemed really out of place.
Out of place, yes.
Like with the waterfowl impoundment, you're going to plant that in 2025, in corn.
Yes.
Why not this year?
Well, it's kind of already past the threshold to plant right now. We thought it'd be better to start it in the new year. Just, it'd be better for the landowner to look at as a yearly thing.
Any other questions?
Someone else?
Sam?
Sam.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, what was your, if I'm not mistaken, on your burn rotation, you did a 2-year rotation?
Yes.
Why did you not choose a higher rotation for that, like 3 to 5?
Well, the landowner currently likes a 2-year rotation. Also, research has stated from Tall Timbers, located in Tallahassee, Florida, that it works great for most of the wild game, such as wild turkey and northern bobwhite. Yes, ma'am.
You use the word wildlife a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
There's 350 species of breeding birds in Georgia, 47 snakes, and all this stuff. So what wildlife are you talking about with
Game species
management?
mainly. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Okay,
that was
define the
confusing.
game species, because do we have black bear there?
There may be white-tailed deer,
Okay.
northern bobwhite, eastern wild turkey, and also there are mainly wood ducks out there, if any ducks are out there. Yes, ma'am.
If I can piggy, does anybody else got questions?
I
Okay, go for it. Nope, you go next.
Is there a reason for planting corn and over a different forage species in the waterfowl impoundment?
The reason for it that we have found, through research is the landowner, he has continued to plant corn yearly, and he enjoys it, and it's easy for him to plant. And anything aspect of planting anything else would be difficult for him, and we found that corn in this area would work great for that.
Are you worried about reducing the amount of cover available for species such as white-tailed deer through your 40 to 60 basal area recommendation?
We're not too worried about that, because, we do have the hardwood bottoms, and there's a lot of acreage there. And it also has mixed pines within that, so they have plenty of cover throughout the property for that.
Let's stick to the timber management
Yes.
side of things, and because we know the landowner has a strong wildlife interest.
Yes.
And so, if you could boil down your burn management and also your harvesting scheme, how does that relate to benefits for his hunting wants for the property? If you could summarize that for me.
First of all, no harvesting will be done at the property at this time, only just then. Also, the burning will allow for him to see further within the stands. For most of the stands are or just mixed throughout, the property, adjacent to the stands. And, it will also, with the burn, we do know that wild game will, prevalent in them areas because of that reason. And, because of, the new growth of all the, greenery and plants, yes. Yes, ma'am.
Me?
Yeah.
Can you please go back to your sampling methodology? Okay, there's a lot of differences here, and I don't know if I missed it, but why do you have sometimes what is a BAF? I am not a forester, I don't understand what BAF means, and also why did the methods change?
So BAF is basal area factor prism, and that's used specifically for point sampling. Our methods and our plot sizes were based on tree size of the stand and understory conditions. So with point sampling, say we had a larger tree size in the stand and a thick understory, we want to do fixed radius plots instead of using a prism, because like if you're using a prism and you're not using a radius, you might miss a few trees, rather than if you did a radius, it's easier to count the trees within the plot.
Okay.
And the size, the 20 you would use for smaller trees, and for the 10 you would use larger trees to be able to count them in when they're farther away. And same like with if you were to do like smaller trees with a thin understory, you could use a prism, because with a thin understory, it's not too thick, you can see all of the trees better,
Okay.
rather than if it was a thick understory.
Okay. I have one more question. Can you go back to your fire map, please? So there's a lot of squiggly lines there. So my question is, you have many different stands of many different sizes. Are there already established fire breaks around these stands? Or do you anticipate any challenges for the landowner to burn a third of the property every year? Does he have help?
Yes, ma'am. So all of these stands, I think besides maybe these two, already have fire breaks if that it's roads or he's mowed the
Okay.
fire breaks. As far as challenges go, he already burns almost 300 acres a year. So
Okay.
with this being said, I think this is 700 acres of stands
Total.
total. Yes. And so if you were to cut that in half, it would be 350. It'd only be 50 more acres, and he also does have a forester that's already
Okay.
working with his property, and he does help burn.
Okay.
What size of burns does he currently operate on? Like you guys were talking about reducing it to about
Yes.
50, if I recall?
Yeah, 50
or
or
less.
less.
What's the average burn block size now?
Mainly it's, between like around 67 on an average, because, and there's a lot of stands that are just 36 acres, as you saw in the stand descriptions. He only does just stands. The burn, like I said, we're recommending these new burn units, for the property, and to be less, for the mosaic across the property. So he just does stands. Like for instance, right here, this was one whole stand before we cut up into a burn unit. He'll burn that whole piece right there himself, just by stand on a biennial.
All right, any other questions?